Hey everybody, welcome to the Cindy Donaldson Show. I am your host, Cindy Donaldson. I am a certified high performance coach, serial entrepreneur, bucket list obsessed, and I am on a mission to make sure that everybody in my circle learns how to not only create, but live their life by design. So, welcome to my RV. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I am still traveling, having the time of my life. We are actually on a trek going cross country. So I'm somewhere in Southern Illinois and it is April 4th and I'm trying to avoid all the crazy storms. And my partner Dave is obsessing over this damn eclipse that's coming up. And no offense to anybody who's really into this, but I totally am not. Like I could care less if I see it, but he's really upset that where we were going now there's going to be cloud cover. So we are on a mission to find a spot without clouds. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're just going to go with the flow. Anyway, today I want to talk a little bit about how so many people think they need permission to do what they want in life. And I was one of those people. And there's probably a little girl still hidden inside me that thinks I do need permission. But I work really hard on trying to squash that voice in my head. And what do I mean by that permission? I can't tell you how many times I've had and my coaching clients too. They ask me, "Well, what do you think? What would you do?" And not that I am shy about telling people what I would do in the situation, because I feel like a lot of my life experiences bring value to other people. But I remind them, I was like, this is what I would do, but that really doesn't matter. It's like, what do you want to do? Like, it's your life. You can do whatever the hell that you want. Could there be consequences with that? Yes, but there's consequences, good or bad, no matter what you do. So you don't need permission from me or anybody else to do what you want. Yet our society and societal norms, I feel like especially for women, and I'm a Catholic girl, so like I've got all that going on. That we need to be validated by somebody else for how we feel, how we dress, how we look, what we do with our life, and all of that. And I love people that really just don't give a shit about any of that. And like I said, there's still that little girl in me that feels a lot of that societal pressure and feels like I need to, be validated. And what I've worked on through years of coaching and therapy and working with mentors is that I need to learn that the only person that I need permission from is myself, right? And that's really difficult for a lot of people to do. It feels weird. It feels selfish and it feels weird. So I want to back up a little bit, and Dave's going to hear this because he's sitting right over here. But in the early 2000s, about 20 years ago, actually, my life was a hot mess express. I mean, I was finally going through a divorce that I wanted for a very long time. But it happened at a really shitty time. My father was ill, he had just passed away. I was in the middle of a lawsuit with some former business partners. I was beyond broke. My credit score was probably around 300. And I meet this guy, Dave. I actually met him because he was business partner of my cousin, and they had a company who needed some rebranding. And we all went out to dinner. And I sat next to this guy, Dave, and he was really nice. And we just hit it off. He just became a really good friend. And my cousin was going through a divorce at the same time I was. And Dave had already been divorced and kind of gone through it. And he sort of became the sounding board for both of us. And one day I walked into his office because now Dave and his business partner, my cousin, were now clients. And my cousin said to me, he's like, "Oh my God, you're falling for Dave." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I don't think so." And the more I thought about it, I was like, "Oh yeah, I totally fell for him." And the more that I thought about it, I was like, "Oh my God, he's the one." Like I knew he was the one. He knew all my secrets and he was really easy to talk to. He was fun and he was adorable. And, I was beyond smitten. So I kept it kind of secret from my kids for a while, although I got called out on that big time. One day it was like my daughter said, "Well, how's your boyfriend?" I'm like, "Oh my God, like I should have had that conversation." But my friends, I shared this with friends, and all of my friends all of my friends were just like, what are you doing? Like, do not get into another relationship. Do not, like, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Like, you have so much going on in your life right now. Like, you don't need to be getting into a relationship. And beyond that, you are such a hot mess. This guy's going to dump you in like 5 minutes. And then you're just going to be heartbroken because you're grasping for something just to make yourself happy. And there's a lot of truth to that. Dave did make me really happy amongst all the craziness, but I didn't listen. I didn't listen. I just knew what I wanted. But here's the plot twist. Like, Dave didn't want to date me. Like, one, his business partner was my cousin, and he was a lot younger. And he's like, I had teenage kids. Like, it just wasn't what he was looking for. And so for about a year and a half, he told me, like, we're not going to date. Like, this isn't going to happen. And I was like, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And I was relentless. I guess, some people might have said I could have stopped him a little bit, but I was just relentless. Like, I just knew that this was something worth fighting for. And it was something that I wanted. And I just blocked out everybody else. Like, I was like, I don't need permission from anybody. This is what I want, and I'm going for it. Well, here we are, almost 20 years later. We have an incredible life. We're traveling around the country in our RV. And if I had listened to everybody, I wouldn't be where I am right now. My life would be incredibly different. I don't know what my life would be like because there's no way to know that. But I listened to my gut, I listened to my heart, I listened to my soul. I might have stalked him a little bit, and I'm not going to apologize for that. It's kind of the running joke in the family that I was the stalker. But he's an amazing person, and I love him dearly, and we have a great life. The lesson is you don't need permission. So I work with a lot of people who are in family owned businesses. I work with a lot of people who are, you know, 20 years into a career and they're just not happy. They want to go do something else. And so when we're coaching, I'll kind of deconstruct that a little bit and find out what is making them unhappy. And typically the reason that they are there is out of guilt, especially with the family owned businesses. They stay because they feel this obligation to their family. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's incredibly honorable unless it's making them miserable. So we will work through that process, and it could be that they feel insecure because maybe their dad is running the company or a brother or a sister, and they have to take orders and they go back to that sibling rivalry thing. And we work through how to be more confident and have better persuasive skills and really be able to deal in that family dynamic in a way that makes them feel good about themselves and a way that they're contributing back to the company. Or maybe they just hate it there and they want out, but they know that the backlash at the Thanksgiving table is going to be miserable. And that's really where I play the you don't need permission card. You don't need permission. Because here's the deal, and you've heard me say this over and over and over and over again. Time is finite. You have a limited amount of time to do the things that you want in your life. And there is no guarantee that that moment is going to last for another 20 years or another 20 minutes. Like, you have no control over that at all. You have no control what happened in the past when you were a kid. You have no control over what other people do, how other people treat you, how they act. You only can control how you react to certain situations and how you live your life. It's why I preach. Like, I am so incredibly passionate about letting people know that they can create and live their life by design, not by default. Like, you don't have to follow what your parents want you to do. Maybe all of your parents were doctors. And so it was just known that you were going to go to med school, but you didn't want to go to med school. You wanted to, go be a travel blogger. Yet you were really smart, did really well in science. So you got really good grades. You went to an Ivy med school. You got the job. You're an orthopedic surgeon. You're making $500,000 a year. You're doing the grind and you hate it. And you want to go be a travel blogger. I can tell you that nothing bad in your life is going to happen if you go be a travel blogger. You have to make some adjustments. Yes. Yes, you will have to make adjustments. If you have family, you'll have to make adjustments. And that's what I help people figure out. Like, how do you do that? How do you make a massive shift going from this is my life here to over what I want there? Does it take work? Yes. Yes, it does take work. And is it always easy? No, it's not always easy. But nothing in your life that you really want is go back to my Dave story. Like I chased that guy for a couple of years. It wasn't always easy. There was a lot of heartbreak in that, but I stuck to it. It's no different than training for a marathon. If you know, you know, right? Like you're out there on those long runs by yourself. And I'm a back of the pack runner. Well, I'm a quote unquote retired long distance runner. I have some knee issues, and my orthopedist is like, "Do you want a knee replacement now or later?" And I was like, "Never really." But he's like, "Well, eventually, probably that's going to happen. But if you keep running, it's going to be sooner, and you'll have a whole other slew of health issues." So I hike more now than I run, but I use these running analogies a lot with my clients and in my content here because, again, if you know, you know. Nobody that I know of really loves doing those long runs, those training long runs, because they are hard. You don't get no one's cheering you along. You don't get a medal at the end. It's just part of the process that you have to go to. So the day of the marathon, you can cross the finish line. You can get the medal. You can have the cold beer. You can get all the rah-rahs and the Instagram selfies. And that's part of life. Sometimes you have to do the hard stuff to get to where you want, but you don't need permission. You don't need permission. I remember when I signed up for the Dopey Challenge at Disney, where you had to do a 5K, 10K, half marathon, and full marathon in 4 days. It was also my first marathon. I'd done several half marathons before that and a bunch of other 10Ks and 5Ks. But people thought I was crazy. Like my kids thought I was nuts. And Dave's like, all right, I'll do it with you. Now, Dave, love him dearly, had knee surgery 2 months before the Disney race, and he pretty much missed all the training. And he went and ran those 4 races without training at all. Like, don't do that. He was fine. He was faster than I was, and I trained for a year. But the point of it is, if I had listened to all the people that said, "Are you freaking crazy? Like, you're going to die." And the weekend of the marathon, they had this incredible heat wave in Florida. Heat advisory. I do not do well in heat. Like I seriously have some kind of internal temperature thing going on. Like the heat is really dangerous for me. And I did not practice because I was crazy. I did not practice with salt tabs. I did not practice with Gatorade because it bothered my stomach. Or I think Powerade is what they use. And so they announced, I think the morning of the half marathon, that if you do not handle the heat well, do not run this race. It is going to be dangerous. It's going to be bad. Do not do it. But they wouldn't give me my money back. And I had already said, I'm doing this. And mind over matter, I did it. I didn't pass out. I finished the race. I got all my medals. I got all the selfies, and I went out for a cold beer after. It was the hardest thing I've ever physically done. And my kids ask me all the time, they're like, even worse than childbirth. And I had natural childbirth twice. I'm like, hell yes. Childbirth was a hell of a lot quicker. This was 4 days of hell. Anyway, permission. Like the only person that I needed permission for to do that was me. And again, there were consequences to that, right? Like I knew it was going to be hard, and I knew that I was going to have to pull from everything that I had inside of me to persevere the bad shit. And there was a lot of bad shit. I mean, I think 7,000 people didn't finish that race. There were ambulances everywhere. People were on the side of the road, passed out, throwing up. It was a mess. And as we were getting our marathon medals, a guy passed out right next to us, and they had to actually get like his heart stopped. Like nobody died, thank God, but it was bad. And I knew that going in, just like I knew with the Dave situation, like he was just going to keep saying no until he didn't, right? So I guess I went back to my very first sales mentor. He's like, you just keep going until they die or get a restraining order. And I guess I had that in the back of my head with Dave. It's like, okay, I'm just going to keep going until one of us dies or he gets a restraining order, and I'm going to get what I want. If you use that mindset throughout anything that you want in your life, you'll get it. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need anything except a deep desire to do something that you want. And you have to be willing to work hard enough to get it and do what you kind of need to do and understand that the road is not linear. It is filled with ups and downs. It is. It's just filled with ups and downs. But to stay in a place that doesn't make you happy, that sucks the life out of you, that puts you on that hamster wheel where you just all of a sudden 20 years have gone by and you're like, what the hell have I done with my life? That's not okay. It shouldn't be. I mean, it's not for me to say that it's not okay. It's for you to say that's not okay. Like, that's what I want you to get out of this, is for you to wake up and say, okay, this isn't okay. Like, I'm not happy in my job. I'm not happy in my relationship. I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy with my health. I'm not happy with whatever. You have the power to change it. Nobody's going to come save you. And I can't take credit for that. I think it's a Mel Robbins thing. Like, she says, it's just nobody's going to come save you. And it's true. Nobody is going to come save you. You have to save yourself. You have to make your life better. You have to want to make your life better. And if you do want to make your life better, it will happen. But sitting around waiting for like the perfect moment is overrated. And frankly, I don't even think it exists. So I mean, I see a lot of like, well, I'm going to wait to have kids, or I'm going to wait to retire. This is the big one that makes me cringe every time I hear it. I'm going to do that when I retire. I'm going to do that when I retire. Well, let me clue you in on something. Sometimes that doesn't happen. My parents both died very young. They never retired. My mom was 45. My dad was 66. My dad was forced to retire because of health reasons, but he worked up until about a year before he died. And then he had this, miserable disease that killed him ultimately. And same with my mother, miserable, miserable. And before that, before both of them got sick, they were hamster wheel people, and they weren't happy. They fought all the time. It was toxic. It was, yeah. I'm not saying they were bad people, because they were born in the generation, their parents grew up in the Depression. My dad was born in 38. My mom was born in 1940. So, that mindset that was given to them, that's why the baby boomers, have that mindset of oh, you have a job, you should be grateful for that job. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be grateful for jobs. That's not the message here. But you toe the line. You toe the line and do what you have to do. You put a roof over your head, food in your belly, all of those basic needs that are really important. But my generation was taught to sacrifice everything else. Like, your happiness doesn't really matter in the equation. For me, I vowed never to be my parents, like health wise, happiness wise. And it's the huge reason why I am so obsessed with the bucket list. The bucket list, I mean, Dave and I even created a company called the Bucket List Nomads, although we haven't done much with it. Dave has more than I have, but I decided like I didn't want to be a travel blogger and spend all of my time writing and taking videos and, to share with the world. I really wanted to experience it. And I also do this kind of stuff. I still have my coaching business. I still have my business consulting business. I launched a nonprofit. I have a network marketing company with Isogenics. Like, I have a lot of stuff going on, and adding one more thing to the mix just didn't serve me at that point. Now, I may dive into it as my life changes, but again, I try to be very intentional with my time. I'm very intentional with who I surround myself with. I cut toxic people out of my life because, again, I don't need permission. I don't have to have a relationship with somebody in my family that, who is toxic to me. Like, my kids have a no contact with, situation with their dad, and I support them on that. But if that changed and they wanted to have a relationship with him, I'd support them. But they would also understand that I will not have a relationship with him ever again because he's very toxic. So the permission thing, just to recap this before I sign off and hit the road and leave Southern Illinois to head back east, is that you have to make a decision on what you want your life to be. And it's really important to gain clarity on that. Understand what you want, what makes you happy, what makes you sad. What makes you energized? What sucks the life out of you? And when you have clarity on that, then giving yourself permission to do the things that you want becomes a hell of a lot easier. And if you need some help with that, I have a new coaching group launching in May. You can go to my website, cindy-donaldson.com. All the programs are in there. I do limit them to small amounts, and that's very intentional. I love the intimacy of a small group. It takes on a life of its own. I also offer one-on-one coaching. I take on a few clients every year, and I have a couple openings left for 2024 if that's something you're interested in. On my website, you can grab a free strategy call. You can email me, hop on my email list. It goes out every Monday and Thursday. And I also have a program called the Insiders Club, which is $9 a month. I pour a lot of my soul in there, and it's self-development, kind of DIY. Every month I choose a new topic. This month we're talking about how to live into and develop a growth mindset, which is so incredibly important when it comes to this permission thing that I'm harping on. So anyway, have an amazing day. Again, I'm Cindy Donaldson. I am honored that you're spending some time with me. So follow me along on social. Just go Google me. I'm everywhere. And again, sign up on my for my email on my website, Donaldson.com. I wish I could have gotten to cindydonaldson.com, but it wasn't there. So I'm dealing with the hyphen. It's a dash every time I talk about my website. Have a great day. Bye.